And hello again. Just some more incidentals that sort of fly in as tangents to the files, but still provide a bit more insight into the technology that's being used and the impact that it's having. One of the things that I wanted to bring up is about how the technology has affected how we run the world. And there's a theory that it makes things faster. It helps us get things done faster and with more competence. There's no evidence of that. In fact, there's only evidence to the contrary. If we're looking at, the effectiveness of the technology that's being used in our everyday lives. And some examples of that is email. Now, usually what's happening, at least at my end, and from what I can see and have sort of had access to in the feedback that I get from others and just sort of keeping my eye open for it, is that first we need to look at what email actually is. It's electronic mail, obviously. And depending on what sort of email service you use, you can be confronted with, if you're using a public network like Gmail or Yahoo or any of those others, you're automatically exposed to third-party data mining. And that's no different to someone coming along and raiding your letterbox at the front of your house and opening your mail and rifling through it, which is illegal. And yet there's another example of big tech presuming to rewrite the law on these things just because it's the internet, and they delude themselves into thinking that it's somehow different. And the reason they do this is to get insight so that they can spin better ads so that they can make more money to keep your service available, and you sort of get guilted into thinking, oh, well, I'm getting it for free. So I don't mind if strangers read and data mine my private mail if it means that I can continue to use this service. Here's the thing, though, there aren't really any other options. We're not really given another option unless you go with completely different operating systems and all the rest of it, which most people don't, because the average Joe, who are a large percentage of the people that I represent with this research, the common person, aren't savvy when it comes to this stuff, nor should they have to be, to skirt con artists. Most of big tech are con artists, and they do not supply options in any capacity when it comes to something like email. For the general public to be able to, make their own choices on that, and instead we're sort of subjugated to email systems that are violations of privacy, that are illegal, that are annoying, and further don't actually ever qualify as official mail. And yet businesses all over the world are being run by this method in terms of how communications are sent and received. This email is one of the major components of that. Now, the number of times that I have agreed to reply to somebody by email, or I have given my email address to people who have asked for it when they don't actually need it. I'm talking about in a business sense, or just daily life stuff and service providers and utilities and daily living stuff, is, they send the emails, and then they'll call, and then they'll text, and all of this is to get just one confirmation. Well, I don't know, maybe I'm just getting old, but we never had this problem. Before this technology came about, the world ran fine, as I mentioned in a previous podcast, and if someone called you, you called them back. It's simple. They didn't need reminding. If you made an appointment, the appointment was made. They didn't need reminding, and it didn't need to be confirmed. It was considered confirmed at the time that you make the appointment. But these days, if you make an appointment, you get 4 different shoves and pushes to elicit a confirmation from you. And then they do it again the day before the appointment. So all up, you're looking at having to deal with about 8 different prompts to confirm a simple appointment. Now, in any language, in any sane and reasonable person's language, look at the difference. Going from a time when nobody needed to confirm an appointment or receive a confirmation of an appointment to a time when we receive 8 prompts, and the workload that it takes at the other end for the business to send you 8 prompts to confirm a simple appointment. It's bold, it's obvious, it's inept, it is time consuming, it is annoying, it grinds people's gears, it works on your last nerve, and it's time consuming and costly for the businesses that have somehow agreed to participate in this absolute ridiculousness. So, the other thing with email is that there's that you can get ads through email, spam through email. You get important emails going to spam folders. I mean, the whole system's inept. It's not secure. It's not run well. It doesn't work right. It's not official mail. It's a privacy violation and should not be counted by any official system of government as a legitimate form of communication, nor is it official in any capacity. And we should not be being forced to comply with communicating with others in this way at all, especially when the option is do this or get nothing. So straight off the bat, email. If you don't need to go there, don't go there. Don't receive emails from people. Don't get spam. And be very firm with anybody who does wind up in your inbox. And point out to them that, you're not willing to divulge personal information because it's not secure, and that you prefer to receive official documentation, hard copy, by snail mail, so that you have a record of it. If they say, well, just print it out, just say, no, stuff you, I'm not paying for printer ink. And I can easily change it at this end, and I can make it look like something different than what you sent me. And it's fraudulent. So, no, that's basically what I do. So, it's been this way for a long, long time, and somehow the technology industry still thinks they're champions of the world. Yet not a single one of them has really any sort of competent basis on which they develop their ideas or implement them. And the evidence is there. It's in your face every day. Excuse me. So that's one aspect in terms of the way that they've made things harder, more annoying, and more invasive, is the simple system of email, electronic mail. Now, how computers have infected retail is another thing that I'd like to bring up. Gone are the days of the old cash register and the friendly conversation that you'd have with the person behind the till, and the quick exchange of cash. Your change would be given very quickly, and you'd receive a docket for your purchase. These days it turns into an FBI investigation. They first of all take a good 10 to 15 seconds to pull up the right screen on the computer. Then they take another good 10 to 15 seconds to find the right column to enter the information in of the product that you've purchased and scan it with the barcode. Then they want your name, your email address, and your phone number, presumably because you might lose the receipt and they want to have a record of the fact that you've been there. In case you lose the receipt and you want to come in and exchange it, they've got your phone number and they can verify that you bought the product. Get stuffed. Sorry. No, you're not having my name. You're not having my email address. And I'm sure as shit not giving you my phone number. Number one, who are you? I don't know you. You could be working in a camera store during the week and raping and killing women on the weekend. Why would I give you my fucking phone number? And there was a point that I raised during the COVID fiasco when my phone number was being asked for by retail businesses, and I looked at some of the guys who were taking these numbers and thought, this is actually a safety risk. I'm giving my phone number to complete strangers. Presumably for my own good. And how laughable is that? For my own good. Give this phone number to strangers in retail stores for your own good. No. When I'm asked to scan for contact tracing, I simply hold my phone up and say, can't do it. It's not a smartphone. When they ask me to write down my name and phone number on a piece of paper, it's only for the people that I sort of have built a relationship with that I do that for. The others, I do it, but it's not very legible writing. So, just getting back to computers in retail and how tedious and how tiring and how lengthy and how inept the process has become, mainly because the people who are working in these retail environments have to learn how to use this technology to begin with. They have to adjust their entire headspace from dealing with a human being in the flesh to going back to a screen and trying to get their head inside that and get all the right information in. And then you get interrogated for all your information. Now, by the time you've left the store, you've been drained by the exchange that takes place at the counter and at the till, simply for purchasing a blender. All I want's a blender, mate. I don't want an FBI investigation. I don't want my privacy invaded. I don't want emails from you. It is up to me to make sure I don't lose the docket. And if I do, it's up to me to find a solution for that, not you, nor is it for you to presume that you are already the solution and you have to tell me what my solution is. Cut out the arrogance, or if that's not what it is, actually think about what you're doing and what you're expecting of people just because big tech came along and said, hey, this is the future of business. If you don't have one of these, you'll get left behind. Now, that's classic IBM marketing. They've been doing it for decades. They invent new machines. They invent new ways of doing business that help them do business because they're dumb. And so they actually need these things as crutches to help them get along in the business world. And then they shove them, they sell them, and they market them, and they con people and emotionally blackmail people and hold people's survival hostage to whether they buy their machines or not. So we end up with a grassroots retail industry of people who might not be savvy with that kind of thing, who take time to learn how to use that kind of thing. And when they do finally get it down, the process still takes a solid 5 to 10 extra minutes of BS just because you want to buy a pair of shoes or a CD. It happened to me the other day. I went and got a pair of headphones and the girl said, what's your phone number? I was like, excuse me? She said, well, I need it in case you lose the receipt. I just said, no. I'm actually an adult. I don't need you fixing my dilemma for me that hasn't even occurred yet. And how dare you enable people to lose their receipts by taking their phone numbers and making it seem like an easy thing for them to do. Maybe if you didn't do that, people would be a bit more careful with their dockets. Big deal. What difference does it make to you as a company if someone loses their docket and they can't prove that they purchased it from you? It makes no difference to you whatsoever. So stay out of our goddamn business. And please don't annoy us at the counter with the FBI investigation on our name, our address, our freaking all this, the phone number, just so you can sort of needle your way into our personal and private lives over a simple retail exchange. It is ridiculous. It is annoying. It is inept. It is another perfect example of technology butting in to things that were not broken, that they have assumed to provide a fix for, and only made things more difficult, more irritating, and upped the overall anxiety level in society. Further to that, and you can find any number of examples of this in your daily life, any number, or swipe your card or swipe your phone, it's insane. Oh, the other thing, when you go through the self-serve checkout at a supermarket and you have to put up with the inane voice, the inane computer voice telling you to please collect your items and please scan the next item, and you've taken a grocery product off the thing, can you please put it back down, and thank you for shopping at Woolworths, and all this sort of stuff. Really, and they wonder why it's hard for people to get jobs, because jobs are being taken over by self-service machines and these other ways of doing things. I even went through like a major chain store, which has always been traditionally you receive service through a checkout counter by a human being, and even they now have self-service. And I had to go through there one day with an enormous amount of stuff because I was stocking up on something, and they put me through self-service. All the women who were there are actually available to attend the checkouts, but they shove people through self-service because they can't be asked. Is this any way to run business in a professional capacity? And this stuff has been sold to retail by big tech, by people like IBM and all the others who manufacture this stuff, just because they can, so that they can make money. It's not because we need it. They invent reasons for why we need it, and then they market it that way. You need this. No, you don't. If you don't have this, your business will get left behind. No, it won't. This is the insidious evil that is present in the technology industry, most of which comes from the United States, of course, that they upfront lie. They did the same with iPhones. They do the same with social media. They upfront, bold-faced lie to you, the consumer. They make you think that you need it. They make you think that there's a demand for it. You don't. The evidence is everywhere that they have made things more difficult. Not only have they made things more difficult, harder, more irritating, but they have actually created an environment, a global environment for us that is hostile, soulless, and the technology itself has killed people, including on 911. September 11, 2001, New York. Hello, IBM. How are you today, Akamai? It was their fault. The technological errors. Clean technological errors that were covered up. Either the FBI never knew about it because they were never told and these companies covered it up, or it was discovered and the United States government covered it up. All the rest of the conspiracies are off the table now. And I will get into a full-length diatribe about 911 and how that actually happened, with the evidence and the proof of how that happened and why big tech were responsible for it. And yet they still have the audacity, the absolute gall, to get up there and shove computer screens into our children's classrooms in primary school. They think that they are benefiting our children's minds by conditioning them to sitting in front of a radiation-producing screen close to their face and eyes, hijacking their minds into an artificial, militarized, simulated realm as a form of education. And this is what we could come to expect from completely stupid people who don't actually know what education is. I mean, we've got them infiltrating sports with artificially intelligent generated stats and scores and all this fancy stuff that they're doing now with the screen for the viewer at home. It's not needed. It's like they're the busybody neighbour who keeps coming over and making a pest of themselves. The tennis, for example, we don't need all that fancy shit on the screen. I'm sorry, we don't. But big tech go, look what our machines can do. Look at us, aren't we special? You need this now. This is going to make tennis more exciting for people. Well, I'm sorry, it was already exciting. It's already been as exciting as it can possibly get. It's already been as entertaining as it can possibly get. Because, see, the thing about tennis, you complete dummies, is what makes it exciting is the players, not the fancy shit that you put on the screen. So kindly leave. You're not needed, neither are your lies and your con artist routines, conning people into buying your shit just so that you can make more money every year. You are literally pathetic and ridiculous, and there are more and more people like me out here who see it. It's not going to last. Because where you're taking people is the wrong direction, obviously. I mean, you do a thing like 911 and you're still functioning, you obviously have no shame either. Or you are so completely brain dead that you can't put two and two together and you don't even know that it was your fault. So you're welcome, if that's the case. You're more than welcome. It was my pleasure, remaining unpaid, to clean up your mess and get all the information together to show you what you are doing, since you have no idea. So yeah, computer screens in kids' classrooms, phones in kids' hands, computer screens in retail businesses, self-serve checkouts, email, and yet the wheels are falling off. Nobody knows what they're doing. It takes 10 times longer to get anything done. We're all pissed. We're agitated on the road. Nobody knows how to get anywhere anymore because the GPS isn't working today. We have no sense of direction anymore, and everything is sort of being, offshored to a computer screen. Before we can even think about what somebody's just said to us. Oh, mate, do you know where so-and-so, such and such is? Oh, sorry, huh? Oh, just let me check my phone. Sorry, what'd you say? Oh, I don't know, mate. Maybe if your phone was off or didn't exist or you didn't have one, you would have heard what I just said. I'd already have my answer and we could be on our way. But because big tech want to constantly demand our attention, like the biggest attention whores in the world, in the universe, ever to exist. Worse than Miss Piggy from the Muppets, thank you very much. They are constantly demanding our attention. They also do this with the government and with law enforcement. Very, very interesting. And they've been doing it for decades. They have been snaking their way into the White House. They make sure they're on the board of advisors to the president. They con whoever the next president is who's not savvy with this sort of stuff with their big tech talk and how they can do this for the government and keep an eye on this and get these systems running. And yeah, we're fucking great. And the White House goes, wow, why wouldn't we want that? This is the United States of America. Look at us. We've got the best technology companies in the world and the best defense department. Why, let's take this on and not even think for a second about the long-term consequences that this shit has on 7 billion people. Just because they want to make money. and keep it sweet with the White House. IBM's been with the White House since Woodrow Wilson, and they brag about it, and they're still there. I mean, they honestly think that they run things. How do you think a presidential candidate can get mail-out ballots to that many people and have that many returned and have that many late and have that many pre-filled out without the help of IBM? I mean, hello. Big tech. It's the signs are seeping through. When you have a social media platform like Twitter deciding for the world who is president of the United States, the answer is right there. They actually think that they are in charge, and they expose the companies who are running this from behind the closed doors of the White House. It's just that Dorsey's too dim to realise that what he's actually exposing when they make these sorts of decisions, and who they're flushing out. So the whole thing is laughable. It's an embarrassing joke. It really is an embarrassing joke. And just because it's shiny or nifty or it's got a lot of storage space or seems like it might be, a faster way of doing things, just let's be honest and let's be real. It takes less time to write a letter and post it than it does for somebody to respond to my email, for example. It takes less time for me to pick up the phone, dial the number and have the conversation than it does for me to text it out or send the email. When I make an appointment, I don't want 8 reminders to confirm it twice or 2 different times. That's got to stop. When I do have to email somebody, I don't want my I don't want my mailbox being raided and my mail being rifled through by big tech just because they need ads. This is corporate surveillance. Corporate surveillance, which is illegal, for the purpose of making money and seeing what we're talking about so they can sell ads. It's not even a good enough reason to spy on people. The NSA couldn't even get away with it, and they had a good reason. So why is it that big tech can? I mean, it's just nasty stuff. It's nasty con artist, corrupt and inept stuff. And in terms of how they've made things harder, and they have, I think that they've at some point recognised that the younger generation are already so hopelessly locked into their phones that their brains have already been completely taken over, and they'll just go along with anything. They'll just follow the code that's been programmed into their head, and they'll keep all of this spinning for big tech. The reason that we are in the situation we are in when it comes to any type of dramatic event, trauma, war, is because of big tech. It's technology that is behind all of this, that is driving the world into the goddamn ground. And, if you happen to hear this on a day that you think life's great and you're having a great time, turn it off and listen to it when you're not feeling so great, because I can guarantee you'll get a lot of satisfaction from listening to this. And if you're looking for someone to blame, I can provide that for you. Big tech, IBM, all the usual crew, making life harder, making life more tedious, dropping the level of professionalism in the world to almost zero, being completely inept, inefficient, and frustrating for the user, and violating our privacy at the same time, and trying to come for our children in the classroom when usually they're not supposed to sit that close to a screen ever. So there's not a whole lot that makes sense with big tech. They did it with law enforcement when they sort of perfected facial recognition. They did the same thing with law enforcement and the governments. They launched their marketing campaign, and they go around to the governments and say, look what we've got. This is going to make it easier to catch criminals. We can put cameras in the streets, and we can do this, that, and the other, and we can facial recog through a whole crowd of people. we've got everybody's information in our database, and you'll be able to match it up just like that. And it's going to save your law enforcement personnel a whole lot of time and hassle trying to find a criminal. They're not really stopped when you think about the fact that it's an unlawful form of surveillance on innocent people. And all they really care about is selling the tools and the technology. Just because some guy sat at the back of IBM or wherever one day and came up with an idea in a way of, creating facial recognition artificially, it doesn't mean they were supposed to go anywhere with it. But they do, because they're infantile and they like to boast about their ideas and brag about them to government and brag about them to law enforcement, and then lie to people and make others feel that they're going to be left behind or they're not cool if they don't buy this stuff. Even back in the 60s, IBM was leasing System 360 to the CIA for something like ridiculous amount of rent, $12,000 a month or something like that. And back then the value of money was different, so I can't quite remember. It's like $12,000 a month or $1,200 a month, which is a shitload of money. They were actually leasing System 360 to the CIA, leasing it. Not selling it, leasing it. So they've been sucking on tax dollars through government for decades. People's tax dollars going through the CIA and then being given to IBM so that they can lease System 360 ad nauseum. And they made it as expensive as possible. And IBM is a government contracted agency. They have a seat in the White House. And they've been there all along. And the government just sort of goes along with it. As like I said in the previous podcast, these guys just don't have any balls. I'm surprised. I really don't get it. The actual White House and the seats of presidents and all the people that have gone through that building, to not have a single ounce of balls. That's you too, Barack. Not have a single ounce of balls to tell these people where to get off, to butt out. And, worse, you sort of went the opposite direction and jumped on board with them and used this technology to, guarantee your seat. And this wasn't done with the public interest in mind. I understand it at the time, but it hasn't worked out. Anyway, that's enough from me on this one. Avoid email where you can. It's all a load of bullshit. It's annoying. It's a privacy invasion. You get spammed. You get ads. If you're a parent, have a chat with your school principal about the screens and that you don't want your child using one because it's too close to their face. You don't want them getting radiation and it's bad for their eyes, and just leave it at that. When you go into retail stores and people are demanding your private information just because you want to pick up a pair of shoelaces, tell them to get stuffed. You're not handing that stuff over. Be nice about it. If you can, and put the word out through your own actions, be an example, and hopefully others will do the same, because this is not sustainable. It cannot last, and we need to participate in making sure that it doesn't. I'll be back again soon.